Hey, how you doing? Getting through Christopher Hitchens' book entitled "God is Not Great: How Religion Poisons Everything." I wanted to make another quick video review while these chapters are still fresh in my mind. Chapters 3, 4, and 5. Chapter 3, entitled "A Short Digression on the Pig, or Why Heaven Hates Ham," is all about the common theme that a lot of Abrahamic religions have with respect to not eating pork, and it's a very short chapter, very brutal, and the point is taken. Chapter 4, I just don't want to get into that chapter because it's pretty harsh. It's got harsh stuff in it, so anyway, this book is for directed at adults. Chapter 4, a note on health, to which religion can be hazardous. And in this chapter, he talks about how the polio vaccine was just 2 little drops, and there were specific people, Cardinal in particular, that he mentions, that didn't want to have anything to do with the vaccine, or in other cases, there were groups of people of a certain faith that wanted to avoid the polio vaccine. They said it could cause all these problems and convince the people to not take it, and it caused the polio to return. So this particular chapter, again, the point is taken. However, I would only point out that the examples that are given are examples of specific individuals. Now, mind you, those individuals were motivated by their religious beliefs. He goes on to talk about the prohibition of using condoms as an example due to religious beliefs, and the repercussions of that with sexually transmitted disease and AIDS and unwanted pregnancy and things, and on and on. And so another chapter, which is, the point is taken. I don't know if we can make the leap that the influence of religion has caused humans to make mistakes. We know that. The influence of religion has caused people to achieve great heights in achievement, inspired by their religious beliefs. They've wanted to do something to impress God, so they've created many different inventions. They've created beautiful works of art. They've created beautiful music. Of course, that's not mentioned by Hitchens. He's focusing on all the bad results from religion, and it gets a little bit overwhelming. It's like, oh man, like it's slogging through the mud. It's not an easy read by any means. So it's a harsh medicine to take, but but he doesn't make any provision for the possibility that had men not had religion to guide them, or religious ideas or religious beliefs, they would make mistakes otherwise. They would still make mistakes based on ignorance. They would make mistakes based on traditional beliefs that are not religious, or particular superstitions that are not specifically of the type of religion that he speaks about. So there's an argument for that. I'm not going to try and argue that. I'm just going to let him have his point. It's gritty, it's harsh, but he makes a strong point, and those points are taken. So let's move on to chapter 5. That's chapter 3, chapter 4, and I'm glad I'm being able to get through this a lot quicker. Chapter 5 is the metaphysical claims of religion are false, is the title of the chapter, and the ignorance of the ancients. I said here, they must be ignorant of many things, including spiritual things, right? He keeps saying that religion is bad. He's calling for the end of God worship, and he says this can only happen when it's optional. He says It's never been optional because it's kind of been the only way to believe down through the ages. It's kind of been forced from the state on down. That's a perception of history that he has, but it depends on how you look at it. I mean, hasn't religion or God worship always been optional? From the time of Cain, when he slew his brother with a stone because he didn't like his sacrifice to God. He was making a sacrifice to God, but he didn't like his sacrifice. And this actually cut me to the quick reading through this chapter. I'm guilty of that myself when I threw stones at, mind you, small pebbles, at Christopher Dawkins. So I still feel guilty about that. But, I mean, live and learn, right? I can do better this time. I'm slowly starting to get the idea, the understanding of the efforts that are being put out by these atheists en masse. It's a concerted effort. Their form, it is actually their form of sacrifice. They're saying, look, God, what I've done. I've taken all this evidence because, I mean, to be able to speak in whatever language is your native language, to be able to have words and thoughts and to be able to have self-communication, isn't that what it means to be in Him, in whom we live and breathe and have our being, in the logos, in the Word itself, right? This is when civilization was created, when the logos came to Earth originally. We can talk about the history of the universe, of course, but as far as, you know, our civilization, isn't that when God came and visited Earth originally with the introduction of the logos? But that's a different point. But anyway, so yeah, they are, as I mentioned, as a group, they are presenting their sacrifice to God, if you want to call it that. It's a kind of, look what I can do. And of course, it's a very harsh view, and it's a very angry view at God Himself. They say, I'm refusing to believe in you because of this, 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 this. But they always pause and sit back and say, what do you think about that? So, I mean, you know, as soon as you begin to communicate, you're communicating with logos, in logos, with logos, to logos, within earshot of logos, if you want to call it that. But I mean, of course, they would never admit to that. They say, well, there's nothing there to hear me. We're just alone in this universe. And I get that argument. I know what they're saying. So, and I should respect that, right? That's their type of interpretation of God, that He's not there. That's their interpretation, and I should respect that. So I've actually been growing sympathetic at listening through as Hitchens slogs through the mud. I mean, he gets his nose right into it. I mean, if Richard Dawkins is polite and tiptoeing through his academic wordplay, it's very pleasant in comparison. And you've got Sam Harris being very aloof and logical. I mean, it's relatively pleasant to read. Hitchens gets right into the dirt. I mean, he sticks his face right into the shit, and he brings you with him and just says, look at this, how gross this is. And it gets pretty gross. So I got to warn you, if you got the stomach for Dawkins and Harris, you may not have the stomach for Hitchens. It's gritty. Okay, enough said. It's very gritty. So chapter 5, he goes on. Yeah, and I'm not trying to be a bully to anybody, not to Dawkins, to anybody. I mean, when I was growing up through school, there always seemed to be a bully in the class. That was kind of the one that I had to get through because I was always moving. I was always the new kid. I'd come into a new class, there'd be a bully there, and we'd end up being like this. But I never intended to be a bully myself. I always knew that being a bully was wrong, that, hey, there's something not right here. Why is everybody afraid of this guy? Well, I quickly found out. It'd be the nastiest guy, and we'd end up going at it, and we'd end up having to respect each other's space from that point forward. But, yes, okay. There's a lot of other points I could mention, but needless to say, it's gritty. I get his points. I understand what he's saying, but I beg to differ. But anyway, it's good reading. I'm getting through it, and now I am moving on to chapter 6, which will be arguments from design, which should be interesting to read because that's more a lot of what the other atheists have addressed as well. So that'll be interesting to read. Chapter 6 coming up. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Take care now. Bye-bye.